ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Geico, with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
The bell tolls. It is time for the opening kickoff. Sunday, noon, Chicago, the debut of Caleb Williams and the 2024 Bears in the 105th season of Bears football. I'm Jeff Joniak, along with my broadcast partner, the Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer. It is the season opener and the great unknown as we await the arrival of the Tennessee Titans and their new head coach, Brian Callahan. Tom, I know you've been amped up. I know what you feel about week one. It seems like it's been a long time. In fact, it has. It's almost been 8 months since the Bears played a regular season football game. That crowd should be jacked. I know you'll be jacked. It's ready to take off here as episode 91 of this podcast unveils.
I'm going to minimize the great unknown because we have so many veterans on this football team right now that have a lot of experience in the NFL. They are in the known. You have these rookies of Austin Booker or Caleb, whomever, whatever rookie you want to point out. They don't understand what's going to take place on Sunday. So they might think that they know what's going to happen on Sunday, but the reality of it is it's going to be a different physical. It's going to be a different speed. It's going to be a different type of game. And so how quickly can you catch up mentally, physically, and just the enormousness of the regular season? And so that's what we're going to have to see, because it's not going to surprise Keenan Allen, Montez Sweat, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, all these guys that have taken part in regular season games before. But for this group of young guys that have a really important role on this football team, it's going to take those guys by surprise for a couple minutes. And don't think that you're going to be immune to it, because it happens to everybody.
This episode of Bears Etc. brought to you by Geico. Coming up in this show, we're going to hear from our old pal, Dave McGinnis, the radio analyst for the Tennessee Titans radio network. Talk a little Steve McMichael with his experiences with Ming, and also a look at the Tennessee Titans and how he sees Caleb Williams and the Bears. We're also going to hear from DJ Moore and Caleb himself as this practice week rolls on and gets ready for what is expected to be an exciting season for the Bears. Tom, I know you watched the final episode of Hard Knocks. One of the most important things I heard out of the whole entire show, of the 5 episodes, is Ryan Bowles saying it is time to win.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of emotion that goes into the last episode of Hard Knocks, either this episode with the Chicago Bears or all the episodes we've seen before, because they have the emotions of the cuts that are involved. And you go through the whole roster, player by player, position by position, with every single coach that's a part of this organization at this point, front office, scouts, general manager, and everybody. Then they have to decide who is the best of the best at their position. And then when you put them all together, it is about the winning, Jeff. And that's what you brought up. It's about time to put the winning on display and make sure that you're showing everybody that you can go out there and compete with any team in the NFL.
So, Caleb Williams, I read this, will be the first rookie quarterback selected in the top 5 to throw to multiple players who had at least 1,200 receiving yards the previous season. That would be DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. He'll also have first-round pick in Adunze, who led the FBS with 1,640 receiving yards in his final season at Washington. And then you throw in all the other pieces. So it is a unique set of circumstances for what we believe is a unique quarterback as well. Let's hear him from the podium on Wednesday at Hallis Hall.
Yeah, I've said this since I've come here. We got a top 5 defense. We just drafted a punter in the 4th round, I believe. We got Kairos, Mr. Santos. We have this, like I said, this amazing defense. We got special guys, a wide receiver. We got a special running back. Our offensive line, I believe in our run game, has been like top 5 in the past 2 or 3 years. It's what I said when I was first drafted, or around that time, of I'm going to do whatever I need to do for my team to win. That's, like I spoke about earlier, handing the ball off, leaning on my guys. If that's dropping back, throwing the ball 30 times, that's doing that. it's leaning on my talent. I'm not trying to do anything special. And then, when those moments happen, when those moments come up, third downs, into games and things like that, obviously, there's some routine plays, but, a lot of times those moments are times where, it's time to be special. And so, understanding the leaning on your guys and also understanding the right situation to go and, do special things on the field. There's a certain balance that you have to find, and we've been working our tail off. I've been working my tail off to try and find it, and so it's been great. It's been fun. And then your second question about the being a captain, I'm extremely grateful. I can't really think of how many rookies are captains with, especially with a team so talented like this. With a lot of, I guess you can say, vet guys. We're a pretty young team, but we have obviously a good amount of vets on this team. And so to be named a captain by my peers and colleagues and my teammates and my friends and brothers, extremely grateful, extremely happy, and something I told them as soon as I got to be able to break it down or talk to them and things like that. So ready to go, fired up, extremely grateful, and we're excited.
Caleb, a lot of your success as a rookie is going to be based on your ability to learn well and learn quickly.
Yep.
How much is there an example, like maybe in your first game in college, for high school, anywhere at USC, just where you've had to learn quickly and learn well?
Yeah. I would say one of the times that I had to learn quickly and learn well, other than this time, is my freshman year. Both my freshman years, whether it's high school or college, I came in a situation where it was kind of the same, where I wasn't the starter immediately as soon as I came in. I had to learn a whole offense to be able to put myself in a position to be able to start, whether it was first game or, like in college, whether it was the 6th or 7th game. And so I think those times have helped me. I also think that I have the ability to learn fast. I think that's my phone, not his. It's my alarm to eat. The ability to learn fast, I think that has grown over time. Obviously, seeing a bunch of different, being in a bunch of different games, seeing a bunch of different films and things like that, I think that's helped. Being in these offenses that I've been in high school, I was a little bit more under center. I had a few more play actions from under center and things like that. In college, I was a little bit more spread, throwing the ball around a lot more, seeing a bunch of different concepts of space and all these different things. So I've gotten a bunch of different, different types of playing throughout my years, and I think it's helped me tremendously to be able to learn this offense.
How are you painting yourself a picture of the Titans defense for this week with a first-time coordinator in his first game and not a lot to study on film? Yeah,
that's the interesting part is that there's not film to study from whether it's a couple years ago or anything like that. He was the secondaries coach not too long ago at the Ravens and things like that. So we're something that we say we're not hunting ghosts, and so we're not hunting ghost of things that they may run, may not run. We're going off of kind of what we've seen, some of the base things that we do know. And other than that, they have players. They got guys on the other side. So they've got Landry and 98, and they got Snead obviously, and they got Diggs from Seattle, and all these other guys, Murray, horns down. No, it's they got some guys over there that I think fit their scheme well. They just got the guy Ernest from the Rams and things like that. So I think that he's done a great job so far building this team, and then. On noon of Sunday, we'll be able to see kind of what they're actually doing, and then, we'll make our adjustments in the game and then go from there.
Your impressions of the young man and what he had to say about his first NFL game and what he's about to experience.
Listen, man, I love his presence. I love what he says. I like the way he answers questions accurately and honestly. And I don't want to be underwhelmed come Sunday. I want to have the appreciation for Caleb that I've been able to develop over a period of time here. And I want to see him just to start to scratch the surface of quarterback greatness. And that's the thing that surprises me the most is I love everything that he's ever said at the podium. I don't want to be disappointed when the regular season starts. So I am pulling for Caleb Williams as hard as I've ever pulled for a player in Chicago Bear history, because I don't think this is not about a game. This is about a decade of success. And so that's what I want to see out of him.
Busy Hard Seltzer, flavors for every vibe. Celebrate responsibly. Molson Coors Beverage Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. One of the men he's going to be throwing to is one of our favorite players that we've seen come through Hallis Hall in a long time, a pure professional. That would be DJ Moore. He will be our player profile feature this week on our Fox Bears Game Day live show on Sunday morning at 10:30. Here's a chunk of that interview that I sat down with him over the last couple of days and hammered out. This is DJ Moore.
Do you feel love right now from Chicago?
Oh, yes, most definitely. More than last year. You definitely can feel everybody is rooting for us. They got their arms out wide, hoping for something big to happen.
Yeah. Do you feel that, too, that something
Yes.
big's going to happen as a player? So I always say players know first.
Yeah, you definitely can feel it. I think the whole locker room has the same feeling. This can be something special this year.
And that offense can be special.
Yeah.
Let's forget about Caleb for just a minute. I know he's the trigger man, but we talk about the weaponry, and now that you've seen it before your eyes every day in the locker room, out on the practice field, when you look around, what goes through your mind?
Shoot, we got a lot of people to defend, from the running backs to the tight ends to the receivers. The O-line, they got the hardest job protecting, of course, 18. Caleb makes everything go, so just having the weapons around him, we just got to make his job easier.
And I keep saying that, too. Literally, Matt Eberflus said last week, I believe, the point guard. And I look at that position, given the weaponry, be a point guard.
Yeah.
I mean, first downs lead to touchdowns. He's going to find completions. There's too many weapons.
Yeah,
I'm simplifying.
No,
it.
he's good. No, he definitely a point guard right now. It's like pick your poison. Who you going to go to get the ball moving, or who's going to be the next player up to get their number called to go out there and make a play. And that's how we just got to look at it all year.
What has your experience been with him behind the scenes? Take us behind the curtain a little.
Oh, it's been good. He's funny. Like, I learned that he loves watches. He loves like little detail art things. So that's behind the scenes. But we usually do a dinner like once a week. We all get together, have good vibes, good games, good talks, and just being us.
And you can feel his belief in himself, can't you?
Yes.
There's a difference between that and somebody just walks in cocky. He's not that way, but boy, you can feel how much he believes in himself.
Yeah, he knows what his talents are and what he's strong in, but he knows that he got to keep growing every day to get to where the level we want to be at.
Yeah, this is not like an instant soup.
Yeah,
It happens, but it's rare. Keenan Allen relationship. Just watching practice every day as I did. You guys are always talking. What are you learning from each other?
Some of the talks don't even be about football. It just be funny conversation that we be having. But on the football side, we're just trying to get concepts to marry up and then routes to marry up. So it's just easier on all of us to make it seem hard on the defense because we just playing simple.
Yeah. But the non-football conversation is also important, right?
So I think that's how our relationship started. It was based off of like cracking jokes, but because we were still learning the offense at the same time. So like if we didn't understand something, we'd be like, you got that? He'd be like, no, I didn't get it. I'm like, we're in the same boat, and we just started laughing. But then over it all, we always came back and found light in something that was probably like a play didn't go so well, and then just make it a joke.
How about Roma Dunze then? I'm sure you guys have welcomed him with open arms. Certainly great talent, but he's kind of watching in the background, taking notes.
Yeah, he definitely be watching in the background, taking notes. He's probably the first player I ever seen come right off the field, full pads, straight from practice to get on the iPad to look at practice as a rookie, like because his locker's right next to mine. So he'd be like, hey, what you was thinking on that? Or he asked Keenan what he was thinking on that. Like he's really into like taking steps every day to get better.
The fifth most targets outside the numbers last season in the NFL. I don't know if you knew this. Career high catch rate of 70.5%, career high in yak yards, and nearly 69% of your catches in your career now gone for first downs. So here's the thing. We all know you have greatness to you, right? And I honestly had not even thought this through. I was recording a show this year, and I said, Pro Bowl receivers, DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, forgetting the fact that wasn't a part of you yet.
Yeah.
How is this possible? These are numbers that go beyond just the simple, how many catches, how many yards, how many no, these are detailed numbers of significance. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I feel pretty good about them. Hopefully I achieve better numbers this year, but I want to say almost every year in my career, it was like something got better that year. And this year I'm looking to better that in some capacity, whether it's a catching percentage or 1,000 yards. I don't even know what I had last year, but if anything goes up, that's a win.
Yeah. And the number of targets, that's always everybody's question, because we got one ball and we got a lot of weapons. Do you care about that?
No, I'm not really worried about the targets. I think I had 1 year where I had 66 catches and I still had 1,000 yards. So I'm really not worried about that. Yeah.
Yeah. You're worried about one thing.
Yeah.
Wins.
Yes.
Can you taste it?
Yeah, you could definitely taste the wins. They in our reach. We just got to go get them.
What do you feel is going to be the mark of this football team then, with that being said? Because, again, players know first.
Mm-hmm. I think our mark, I think I've been saying this, the difference maker on the offensive side is probably going to be DeAndre. Probably going to be Swift. So I know you got me, Keenan, Rome on the outside, but the difference maker is probably going to be Swift coming out of the backfield and doing everything that he does.
Dangerous on the screen game, hits the rails, and he could be gone, right?
He's going to be gone.
All this stuff is so exciting, I can't stand it. When the Bears came to you to get a new deal done, were you surprised? And B, I know you've been on the record as saying, my gosh, or I may have been Hard Knocks, either one less thing to worry about.
I got that call to go up, to go sign, and that was like a happy moment for me.
And the love you got from your teammates.
Yeah.
I know we didn't see video of it.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little taste of what it was like?
Yeah, so a few people knew on the field. Mercedes knew, Cole knew, and DeAndre knew. And then everybody else found out as soon as they got back to the locker room. It was just epic just to be in there. Everybody was just showing love. They was happy and excited for me.
How did that make you feel as a man and a teammate?
Nah. I just felt love from the team, from my teammates, the team, the whole organization. So when that got done, I was just like, man, they really on the right track with everybody that's here, and that's balling.
Yeah. And how important is that to you? Because you didn't have a choice. You were traded here, obviously. So, and you'll be a part of a trivia question one day. You know that.
I got you.
Because, knocking on wood, Caleb's that star quarterback, and the haul is unbelievable. But you didn't have a choice. But you seemingly really love being here.
Yeah.
Not just the team, but the city, and now you're growing this family of yours.
When I got drafted, that was the starting point in Carolina. Once they traded me here, it was new beginnings. I felt like I was a rookie again. So to come out in year 2 here with a contract is just amazing. And like you said, we all rooted right here, right now, because we got the extension. So we love the city.
Where do your dreams and thoughts take you these days?
Thoughts, Pro Bowl, dreams, all pro. No, Pro Bowl is a thought, but it's really not up to me per se. It's like the fan votes, however it go. I ain't too worried about it. But if I make all pro, that'd be a dream. Super Bowl, definitely up there.
The trophy, man. The trophy. When you guys walk through and you see that trophy and that time to really take it in.
Yeah. I walk past it every day, look at it, and then I head into the meeting room. So that's definitely the first dream that's up there to get to.
Tell me about Chris Beatty, receivers coach.
Our receivers coach, Chris Beatty. Man, me and Keenan make it so hard on him. But it's out of love, and everybody gets it, and we're a real detailed group. The inmates was minimal throughout training camp, which is hard, putting in a new offense. We accepted that task and went out there every day and did our best to not mess up. He's a detailed coach. He's a fun coach. He's a loving coach. He'd be on us, but we know where it's coming from.
Yeah, and then Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, he's got that veteran play calling experience, which is critical, because if you don't, it's going to be a learning process.
Yeah.
How do you feel about what he's put together here? and how he conjures this offense to look like, because the key for good offensive coordinators to build around what you have and exercise the talents of those individuals.
Yeah, and I think he does that. When it's time to be detailed and like game plan wise, he has shown that and that's what he does, and you can see why he's been successful. And he's a great teacher, first and foremost. He taught us the offense probably like the easiest way possible that I've learned in the NFL today.
Why is that, do you think?
I have no clue, but it just like resonated with everybody that the first time when he was going through it, and then we came back for training camp, and it was like we was all hitting gas and understood the offense.
So the Tennessee Titans,
Yeah.
first hurdle. Quick thoughts on what they they got some dudes on defense.
They got some dudes on defense. We got some dudes on offense. So it's going to be a nice little show. First game, adrenaline's definitely going to be running. So we're going to see.
Yeah, enjoy the entire season. Congrats on everything that you have already accomplished, and congratulations on a member and the family coming down the road here. So you got the whole thing working for you.
Thank you.
Wish you nothing but the best.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Tom, lots to break down there, but I can see this guy being here the rest of his career. I think he's alluded to it. He's expecting a third child. He is very much ingrained and frankly, a very short time, a year plus here in the city. Loves this area, and he loves being a Chicago Bear. Again, he didn't have the choice. He was traded here, and the Bears came to him. 2 years left on his deal to cut a new one, knowing his value and what it means in the big picture for the Bears. I think he's in the perfect storm of life right now.
Man, when I hear him on Hard Knocks, I hear your interview with him. He's the type of teammate I wish I always had. And I had some of them.
Oh, yeah, you
But
did.
on the modern day, the present day Chicago Bears, the guys that you sit and learn and listen to, and you take a little bit away from their professionalism every single time they talk. I love what DJ Moore has brought to the Chicago Bears locker room, to this football team. I like his presence, and I like that his dedication to the game, to his family, to the importance of the sport, and to his role here in Chicago. So I am pulling on the DJ Moore string as hard as any Bear fan could possibly pull for him.
Love our conversations. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois, right here at home, driving access toward healthier communities through it all. Some other notes that we should focus on here is that this team is built in the mind of Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham and Matt Eberflus at being on the doorstep of taking a big jump. I think we see on both sides of the ball. I read one of the writers, and I can't recall which now, said, this team has got a dozen potential Pro Bowlers on it. And that's if everything goes well and everything hits right and everybody stays healthy. But I can't agree more. I can't agree more with that. But those guys, and some of those guys, frankly, are on the offensive line. Some of those guys, we didn't want to talk about that, but those guys, if they play well, a Darnell Wright, a Tevin Jenkins come to mind as guys who have that kind of ability and potential. To me, we cannot talk enough about the line of scrimmage. We can talk about all these skill players. We can talk about everything in the back end of the Bears defense, the back seven, outstanding talent. But what happens at the line of scrimmage still remains the storyline, in my opinion, for 2024.
Yeah, listen, I don't think we've talked enough about the offense and defensive line and their role in the success of this football team. And if it's going to go anywhere beyond the season into the playoffs, deep into the playoffs, it's going to be because that you have a group of offense and defensive linemen that are as productive at their jobs of anybody else on this football team. We talk a lot about the fancy guys. We don't talk a lot about the grunts. And I think when you look at what the Bears can have when they brought in Darrell Taylor and they brought in, Austin Booker, we already know what Montez Sweat can be. We have an enormous ceiling for Javon Dexter Sr. And then you talked about the guys on the offensive line. If every one of these guys stay healthy and are productive, you're talking about a phase that goes not mentioned enough, but their role in the ultimate football success.
Steinhoffels is an employee-owned furniture and mattress store. Visit any of their 4 Chicagoland locations in Vernon Hills, in Vernon Hills, Crystal Lake, Downers Grove, and Harwood Heights, or shop online at steinhoffels.com. As promised, a conversation now with color analyst on the Tennessee Titans radio network, the former Bears linebacker coach, a man who coached at 4 colleges, 4 NFL teams, including the Titans, which he knows very well from his days 2004 to 2011, but also as a radio analyst now in his 8th season. A fun conversation with Dave McGinnis, the former Bears linebackers coach, about all things Bears and Titans. 4 to 2011, you've done it all, Dave. You've done it all.
Well, I haven't quite done it all, but this is one of the apexes of my career, being on with Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
You got to say Tom Thayer's and where that came from.
Well, Dick Stanfield had a great offensive line there, Hall of Fame coach, and he had a really good center guard triangle there with Hilge and Bortzy, and as he called him, every time, Thayer's. Thayers, you can bench press the room. Can you move this guy just a little bit further?
I see you bench press 500 pounds. This guy's throwing you around like a dish rag.
Oh, my God.
That is an actual meeting quote from Dick Stanfield while we were watching game tape.
It was classic, just like that whole team and that whole era of Bears football was classic. People always ask me, I do a lot of speaking engagements around the country now, and a lot of it is on those Bear days, and then a lot of it, of course, clearly is on Pat Tillman, and just, all things considered. But they asked me what that time was for me, those years that I was there, with Mike Ditka and Tom Thayer and all of that group, and I said it was football Camelot, and it really was.
Well, you were a young man then. You were, I don't know if you weren't breaking into football, but to us, you were a young guy coming aboard to a team that was established, and it didn't take you long before you fit in perfectly. And since you brought it up, let's just talk about Ming a little bit, because you had a lot of experience to coach Steve McMichael, his role, his importance, in finally getting the recognition and the due that he deserves and earned. So a little bit about Ming and, your first time meeting him and such.
If your heart could be any fuller for a person and for a former player, I mean, I coached for 31 years in this league, and there's a lot of players that have made an impact on my life. But just to see Steve McMichael to finally be recognized for the player that he was in the National Football League, and to be presented with that gold jacket with all of those guys around his bed, that meant so much to me. I've done quite a few interviews on that too. Steve McMichael at the time, when I first got that job, I called Mike Singletary and said, I want to have dinner with you, because, here I was 32 years old. I was the 8th coach on the staff. I mean, it's not like nowadays, you guys know, where there's 25 or 28 assistant coaches. There were 8 of us, counting Mike Ditka. And so to be dropped into that room with that group that I was dropped into there with Mike Singletary and with Otis and Wilburn and Ron Rivera and Jim Morrissey, Al Harris. I mean, come on, man. I mean, every meeting room was either Pro Bowl players or future Hall of Fame players. And so, I mean, it was a very unique time. Steve McMichael, though, was and I think you'll agree with this, Tom, was one of the smartest defensive tackles I've ever been associated with in my 3 decades plus coaching career. He could tell you exactly what was going on, how they were scheming him up, how they were blocking him, and was completely selfless. He and Dan Hampton, they used to, when I can remember going into the training room after games, and those 2 guys sitting there in the training room with ice all over them, ice bags everywhere, a bottle of tequila sitting right in the middle on that table, right between them. And this is the God's honest truth. And McMichael would look up and go, yeah, little young guru, you're welcome again. You're building your career on our bodies. You're welcome. I mean, just the best. And of course, both of us being from Texas. I mean, look, the guy's a legend. The guy was a legend. He was a legend, coming out of the University of Texas. And he was a legend in Chicago, and he rightfully deserved the Hall of Fame. But those of us that were fortunate enough to experience Ming during all of those years, I mean, there was not anybody like him, Tom. There just really wasn't, and you know that.
Tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
You know, Dave, we could sit here and we could tell stories about Ming for the next hour and easily have more to talk about. A couple things I remember when you talk about his role and Hampton's role in the success of Singletary. I can remember walking out of the locker room at kickoff and Ming tugging on his helmet, and he goes, "Okay, Singletary, let me and Hampton go out. You make you another All-Pro season." And it was, but it was the respect that he carried in that room, and it did filter backwards to guys like Singletary in the linebacker position. And it was never Ming kind of being a wise guy. It was Ming being Ming, and that's the type of person he was. And you talk about intelligence. That guy was as smart as anybody in the room, but he never wanted anybody to know that.
Tom, you got it spot on, and he was so smart, and I mean, you know, it's so quick and had a great wit, but he was so football smart. I mean, he was very analytical with what he did, and he studied his opponent. I mean, all of those things. And you're right, Tom. He never wanted but because the persona that he put out, I mean, it was truly Mongo knocking the horse out. I mean, that's the persona. But that wasn't the person. Look, there will never be another one like him. I mean, because this is a different day and age. But that football team was a team that was made up of characters that had character, and that's a big combination that it's hard to get. You can't get it nowadays because of the free agency and guys are moving around. You guys were a really special group that will be for all times in the annals of the NFL. Revered for what you were.
I'll say this too about McMichael. On the occasion that I had to sit with him at events and sit next to him, I felt that knowledge because he was willing to give it post-career. So, you know what I regret though? I regret that I just didn't take the advantage of that relationship and spend some time to learn more about defensive football, defensive line play, playing on the edges of a player, using your leverage and length and whatever it is that he manipulated his way and powered his way and muscled his way to the quarterback, collapsing the pocket and stopping the run. So it's a message for all of us in this beautiful sport that don't pass on the opportunity because the opportunity will one day be gone. I'll never forget when you brought Tom and I on the field talking to you when you were Arizona's head coach and you wanted to introduce us to Pat Tillman. I'll never forget. Tom, do you remember that? Yeah, I never forget that. And he was the gentleman and respectful as he was serving for our country. So that is a moment in time that I can never forget. And Mac, I don't think in football it's unlike any other sport that these moments come.
Yeah, and it's so true. And as I said, and in fact, I'm having dinner Saturday night with the people of the Tillman Foundation because they've asked me to come speak at an honors banquet in November up there, and I'm gonna do it. I mean, it's right in the middle of the season, but if they said they could get me up there and back in one day, and I'm gonna speak for the Tillman Honors Foundation. I just talked about all the great players. Tom Thayer is one of them that I've been associated with in my coaching career in this league, and I've been so fortunate. But nobody's ever impacted my life like Pat Tillman did, and we could go on and on about that. Forever. But the reason I wanted to introduce you guys to Pat Tillman because Pat Tillman was special, and I knew you guys were the type of men that would appreciate it.
It was appreciated, definitely.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, just in hindsight, it's amazing that we did get a chance to, shake his hand at one time in our lives and then him having the impact on the world that he's had. But Dave, I got to transfer over to the Tennessee Titans because I've really been interested about this. I'm not a big fan of nepotism in the NFL, but this is the first time I've kind of seen reverse nepotism when a son hires a dad.
Awesome.
And I'm talking about Brian Callahan hiring Bill Callahan, who's one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of the game. And you've been around Dick Stanfeld, who's a Hall of Fame coach and player. Was it the right move? Is it the right move? And is it going to help Brian Callahan become a better head coach having his dad on the staff?
It was essential, Tom, and you're right. You played for for a Hall of Fame offensive line coach. I was fortunate enough in my time coaching here with Jeff Fisher to coach with Mike Munchak, who is very high in my book. Bill Callahan is right of the same caliber, and when Brian Callahan is interviewed for other head jobs before he got this one, his dad had said, had told him, I'm not going to go. I'm not going, I'm not going. This time it was different. And Bill Callahan has said this. He said, when I sat and watched my son in his press conference, when he opening press conference, when he was introduced as the head coach, he thought, I need to do this. And major kudos to the Cleveland Browns because he's under contract. And, probably one of the highest paid offensive line coaches in the league, and rightfully so. He was under contract, and they understood the moment also and let him come here. I'll tell you this, Tom. I spent the entire, from the OTAs, from the time Bill Callahan got here, I walked into his office, and of course, then I've coached against Bill Callahan, in my career, and then as we talked from the OTAs on, when he first started, that's where I stood the entire time. I stood and just absorbed and watched him teach with detail, with repetition, and watch those guys get fundamentally better. And you can speak to that because I watched that group when I was a very young coach. You guys just get fundamentally better and get in sync with one another. And it's a huge addition. It's a huge addition for these players here now that are learning under him. And I know that Brian Callahan has said, more than once, it's a real blessing to have my dad here, with the respect that he garners. I mean, it is, but I spent the entire OTAs and the entire training camp watching him develop these guys, which, it's a young group. But just to watch him teach and to watch the intricacies of that, people don't understand the intricacies of the offensive line. You do, but the general public just does not understand what it takes, not only physically, but mentally, to play that position in the National Football League. I thought I knew a lot about it because of the two guys that I had been with during my career, but I got a doctorate this off season just watching Bill Callahan coach.
Just a small caveat to that. His assistant offensive line coach, Matt Jones, is a kid that cut his teeth here at the University of St. Francis in Joliet, Illinois. And our family's restaurant used to feed the coaching staff, and he was the guy that used to come and pick up the food.
Wow.
And so I think about him and having the opportunity to work for a guy like Bill Callahan throughout his career, because the NFL needs quality offensive line coaches. And so I think of the technique, the intelligence, the fundamental, the repetitiously learned things for a young guy like Matt Jones, how it's going to benefit him in his career.
You know what? And that's a great point, Tom. The offensive line is different. I mean, just the mindset and just the camaraderie that it takes to really be a good offensive. And you don't really can understand it and appreciate it unless you've been around it. You've been in it. You did it at the highest level. But it's a very, very intricate pack mentality. And it's a herd mentality that you have to have, and the codependence that those guys from tackle to tackle have on one another, and that center guard triangle, just the intricacies of being able to work that, pre-snap and post-snap, all of those things. It's just it's a really, really great part of the game that people don't take enough time to appreciate and look at, because it's so detailed, and to be able to watch it and again, I love talking with you about it because you appreciate it. You know what it was. I mean, I used to sit in those meetings late at night with Johnny Rowland and with Dick Stanfill and talking about ways that you guys, were going to handle the front, or you were going to handle this blitz scheme, or you were going to handle and how it was going to work together and how they were going to present it to the players. That stuff, that is a genesis because it's still you can spin it all you want up and down the field. This is still a big man's game on both sides of the football, and the offensive line is a special part of that.
Essential, indeed. We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. So week one, I say it every time, every year, so it's something that people can document me on. It's the great unknown in week one, but then you throw in the other factors, Mac. You throw in Brian Callahan, a young head coach, first-time head coach and first-time play caller. With all this weaponry that have been added around a second-year quarterback and Will Levis with the big arm, what can Bears fans expect from the Tennessee Titans? Or is it the great unknown for you as well because he's had a blend of different experiences? It's not just that Zach Taylor branch that's connected to Kyle Shanahan, that's connected to Sean McVay, that's ultimately connected to Gary Kubiak, yet this guy also cut his teeth working with Peyton Manning in a drop-back shotgun offense with that particular quarterback. So there's a blend here, and I'm curious what we might see, what your insight might be without giving away the game plan of the Tennessee Titans, of course.
Well, the genesis of all of this is Mike Shanahan.
Yeah.
And all of these guys that have come off of the trunk of that tree. I mean, this is the genesis of it, and each guy has added his own flavor to it and has added his own mix. Brian Callahan has impressed me. He's very, very organized. He's very intentional with the things that he's doing. I know Zach Taylor very, very well. Coached with his dad. I mean, I've known Zach Taylor, when he was just growing up, and so I know, and I know what their philosophy up there was. The one thing that I will say, it's going to be different, for Titans fans even because the offensive philosophy, I would think that runs through the veins of the Oilers/Titans, going to clear back. You can go to Earl Campbell, go to Eddie George, go to CJ2K, and then go to Derrick Henry. It's always been a running back centric offense. Well, this offense is still going to run the ball, but now you're going to have two running backs. It's going to be a different look, offensively, for Oilers/Titans fans that they've from all of those decades that you've been looking at. And it's a little bit. These two teams are a little bit of mirror images of one another because you've got two young quarterbacks that the club has gone out and surrounded them with some real talent, especially at the receiver group. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out because and the Titans they were in a reset. Once they you got a second year general manager, you got a first year head coach. Those guys have melded together to come through, when they spent over $220 million in free agency to try to start to get this roster back up to par. Then they have a draft where it looks like they've hit on some players there. They've got a second year quarterback that they need to develop and to give him the keys to what's happening here. So all of that stuff is I think very similar to what's going on there. Chicago's a little further ahead because their head coach has been there a little bit longer and they've had a little more time to put it together. But with a rookie quarterback who I think is outstanding. I mean, how we do the Titans radio here. We do the draft in very deep detail for 3 days with our broadcast and what we do. And so, I've gone to every combine since they've had him there and dig into the draft very deeply. This guy was impressive. He was impressive coming out, and clearly he's started to impress with boots on the ground there. So,
what impresses you, Dave? What impresses you about what you've seen so far, and going back to Oklahoma and USC?
Well, first of all, he's a superb athlete. Number two is he's got exceptional arm talent, and he's got arm talent from various platforms. But he's one of those guys that's got enough arm talent and has got enough physical ability that even when he's off schedule, he can still square up and throw. A lot of guys can get off schedule and throw it, but being off schedule, which means coming out of the cylinder and throwing it accurately, not a lot of them can do that. He can do it. And then plus, I mean, it seems to be that he's got the personality that will, gather people to him. I would imagine, I mean, I coached there for 10 years. I know the way the city of Chicago's mindset is about the Bears and about football and the chance to have a guy that can be the dude at quarterback. I mean, we experienced that with Jimmy Mack, and I don't think that they've experienced that since. And so, I mean, that to me brings a lot to it. But he's a superb talent, but he's also a superb competitor. I mean, I thought the guy should have been the number one pick in the draft, and he was.
You have a new head coach. You got all those new pieces in place. What do you know least about your team? Because we're all fortunate to be around our teams that we cover on a daily basis. So what's going to be capture your attention? What's going to be your biggest surprise? What do you know least about the Tennessee Titans?
Just what you said, Tom. How's this all going to come together? Because they've brought a number of talented pieces in here, and Rand Carthon continues to add to it. But see how those come together, because you can assemble talent, but that's much different than coalescing a team. That's what I'm interested in seeing. How is all of these pieces that they've brought in to this new iteration of the Tennessee Titans? How are they going? Because you got to mix some guys that were very established in their careers that you've brought in here. You've got some new guys that are just coming on. I mean, brought Lloyd Cushenberry in here is a very established center. But the left guard's a kid, right? From right there, right. In Chicago, in Skoronski, and then you got a rookie left tackle that's extremely talented. But how's all that going to come together? I mean, and then you start looking, how's the young quarterback going to work with all of these three receivers that they've brought in here? I mean, that's going to be very, very interesting to me. And we haven't even talked about the defensive side of it yet, because, I mean, they added a guy in the middle next to Jeffrey Simmons now that is a dude. How's all that?
He blots out the sun, Dave.
Well, I mean, now Tom Thayer's blocked some big dudes in his life, but I mean, this dude's 6'4", 366 and can move his feet. And so, yes. I mean, there's something to that. And so when you sit and when you watch it, you just wonder, the parts look good. How is the whole going to look together? That's what I'm interested in seeing.
One thing about Tavondre Sweat, he moves well for a big man. And it's a high temperature this Sunday of 69 degrees. I don't know what the temperature's been down in Tennessee, because we've been down there where it's been extremely hot. So I don't want to see a big man like that have fresh circumstances to play in the regular season. But I just want to skip over to Jeffrey Simmons, because now that Aaron Donald is not in the league anymore, when you look at a player like Jeffrey Simmons, to me, he looks like he could be one of the best defensive tackles in the National Football League. How do you feel he's coming out of camp this year?
No, he's in tremendous shape. He was on that arc. He played last year on one leg for about half the season. Refused to come out and kept playing, but he wasn't. It wasn't the same. None of you guys are the same when nobody's ever playing completely healthy. You know that. But I mean, he was literally on one leg last year. He was on an arc to be one of the elite, and he was paid like that, and rightfully so. So he's had a really good off season. He's had a really good training camp. I mean, he's been a linchpin in training camp. And you're right. We had some hot weather down here during this training camp. I mean, it had the heat, had the humidity. I mean, it was some of those days the humidity was so high, it was like you were breathing mayonnaise out there. And you know what that does to you. I mean, it kind of hardens you up. And so anyway, Jeffrey Simmons, and again, we always talk about health in the National Football League, but right now his trajectory looks pretty good.
All right, we'll wrap you up, Dave. Final thoughts. First of all, Denard Wilson, somebody we got to know with the Bears as a pro scout. That's how he entered the NFL from 2008. 2000. Great to see him rise into that capacity. He's been influenced from a Bears perspective. I guess I'm bracing for pressure and blitzing because he's had a lot of those philosophies that have come from Mike McDonald, his days in Philadelphia, Baltimore as well. And I read a quote. I don't know if it's his or not, but it says his blitzing philosophies influenced by General George Patton, Tom. Nobody ever defended anything successful. You're going to attack, and attack some more. So is that what the Bears are going to expect from the Tennessee Titans defense on Sunday?
Well, I know Denard very well. When I was assistant head coach, with Jeff Fisher for the Rams, both in St. Louis and in L.A., he brought Denard in there when he brought Greg Williams in there, brought Denard in there as a defensive quality control, and just watched him progress and move through. So he's been exposed to, because with Greg Williams and Jeff Fisher there, he's been exposed to some Buddy Ryan philosophy. He's been exposed to some of the philosophy that we had. Then you start mentioning the guys he's been around. This is an up and comer, in this league. The league had me. I was one of the six that they had at the league meetings that spent a week with that accelerator program, interviewing 30 potential head coach candidates. And Denard was one of them. So you can tell that he's a fast ascender in this league. But he is intensity. But the other thing about it is that if that intensity, if you can't connect with your players, he gets a great connection with his players. So it's going to be interesting to see his first time out of the box, calling defenses where he is. But he surrounded himself with some really, really good veteran coaches on the defensive side of it, with Frank Bush, with Tracy Rocker. It's going to be interesting to watch.
All right, Dave, we got to let you go. Make sure you come by. Say hello in the booth. Tom will have the coffee on by 5 a.m. He'll be super jacked. It's alumni weekend also, so a lot of former Bears will be in on the sideline, so you'll be shaking hands and kissing babies and taking pictures, Mac. And at halftime, Tom is going to go out there, and he's going to present and say a few words about Steve McMichael, the Hall of Famer. He'll get his ring, his Hall of Fame ring ceremony. So I'm sure it's going to give you goosebumps. It's going to give me goosebumps. I couldn't think of a better guy to go out there and share some of that information with the 61,000 plus that'll be at Soldier Field for the season opener.
Tom, I absolutely love that. I can't wait to see that. I'm looking forward to it, and there'll be a lump in my throat too watching that.
Ming, before he lost his voice, he always used to say, "Hey, Tommy, when you get a chance to talk on behalf of Mongo, I want you to tell them the truth." And, you got, like you said, there's a perception of McMichael and there's the reality of McMichael. And I always talk in the perception of McMichael because, Ming, that's how he wanted to be presented to the general public.
And he did it better than anybody ever could. I'm so happy that you're doing that, Tom. That is fabulous. Can't wait to see you guys.
Okay, Dave, we'll look forward to it. Thank you so much for this time. We appreciate it. Enjoy the season. Good luck to you guys. All right, I think we can agree he's one of the better personalities that we've come across, right? Perfect fit on your 85 to 93 Bears teams that you were a part of. Dave McGinnis, as big a personality as the linebacker coach as any of you guys, the players, Coach Ditka and some of the other assistant coaches. But when I listen to his games, like you guys are so deep into the X's and O's. And it's interesting to hear the difference between an offensive lineman, former player, a decade in the NFL as a player, and then McGinnis as a longtime coach to dissect games. It's a pleasure to listen to both of you guys.
Yeah, he's got exceptional knowledge of the game. And the thing that surprises me most about Dave McGinnis is because when his coaching career is over, you could be in that Western picture where you see the cowboy riding towards the sunset with the cowboy hat on and just getting ready to enjoy life. And he didn't accept that. He became part of the business, and he's been doing a great job on Titans radio now, like you said, for the last 8 years. And he loves the game of football. He loves the Chicago Bears. Bears. He loves the players as a young coach that he came aboard and started coaching the Singletary, Otis Wilson, Wilbur Marshall, the defensive line we talk about, along with Ron Rivera, Jim Morrissey, that whole group of guys. So Dave kind of had to come into the NFL, and you're playing for an alpha male head coach. You're playing for a bunch of alpha male football players, but he still came in and he was absorbed into the group as well as anybody has been in my time here, because my offensive line coach at that point had already been here for a number of years. And Dick Stanfeld and Dave McGinnis became great friends. And Dick Stanfeld taught Dave McGinnis a lot about the game of football. And Dave has been an asset to the game as long as he's been in it.
All right, in our final moments, let's take a look at the game. Is there some underrated components that we may not have dwelled on over the course of our week here, breaking this thing down, or as you begun your research and dove in deep on these Tennessee Titans? Because we could talk about a new coach. We don't really know what the scheme will look like. We have a new defensive coordinator in the NFL, and Denard Wilson. Don't know exactly what that's going to look like. We got a coach's father on the team coaching an offensive line. But, somebody stopped me in the locker room today, Tom, and said, man, you look deeper at the Titans. They got a pretty good roster of veterans. And that is something that you alluded to at the top of this show that the Bears veterans won't be too big for. Same with the Titans. With a new team, there's a lot of veterans that can kind of ease the young guys in, including a young quarterback this time in Will Levis.
Yeah, but you keep bringing up a name of a guy that won't have a jersey on. He won't be in cleats. He'll never wear a helmet during the course of the game, and that's Denard Wilson. Because when you're talking about having a rookie quarterback, you're going to face the number one pick at home. What type of pressure do you try to put in the face of a quarterback? And that's the thing about it. Pressure in the NFL, it doesn't necessarily have to compute to sacks. If you make that quarterback take a step to his right or his left throughout his throwing motion, if you start making him think the game an eighth of a second, a half of a second quicker than he really wants to make that decision, that's where the difficulty starts for a young quarterback. So Denard Wilson won't see a play, but he's got the guys in front of him that can put that type of pressure on. And then how is the offensive line and all the key blockers going to accept the type of pressures that Denard Wilson is going to make? If they give Caleb Williams that 3/4 of a second that he needs, that 1 second extra that he needs, look for some big plays. Because we sat here and we talked about the playmakers. I don't want to lose sight of that, but it's about the type of pressure that the opponent's defensive coordinator wants to put on Caleb, but how the blockers for Caleb accept their responsibilities. If they give him the time, you can see some big plays take place.
Will Levis has 9 NFL starts in the games last year in Tennessee, different offense. A lot of downfield throws, probably the most average yards per pass attempt in the NFL, believe it or not. They did not, even though they had Derrick Henry, it was not a steady diet of Derrick Henry all the time when he became the quarterback for Tannehill. I'm thinking in this particular scheme, if it falls in line with the Zach Taylor and the rest of the influences, Brian Callahan will want him to get the ball out quick and lean into the running game a little bit. And I'm wondering which team will have more runs on Sunday.
That Derrick Henry's not here anymore. And I don't necessarily think that will compute to more runs for the Tennessee Titans. I think there would be a wider variety of exterior plays. That's not always a handoff. A lot of it could be throwing the ball to the outside to Tony Pollard. And he's the type of receiver, if you get him in space and you get some separation between he and defenders, he can turn it into a big play. He's got that type of speed. But interior blocking for the running game is always the key to success. And then that brings up Bill Callahan, one of the better offensive line coaches that's been in the league, now coaching for his son. That's a dynamic and a relationship that we've never seen before, Jeff. We're used to nepotism, but that's daddy coaching with their sons in a position coaching responsibility. Now this is son that has daddy in a really important role on this football team. So it's going to be interesting to watch that unfold throughout the whole season. And I guess Will Levis is still the unknown. Here's a guy that thought he could possibly be a first rounder in the draft, and he started sinking in the draft. He's got a dynamic, confident personality. And it surprises me because reading some of the behind the scenes stuff about Vrabel, there was not a great coaching player relationship in that organization. In the way they're talking about Brian Callahan right now, it's refreshing that these players have input into the game planning and what they feel comfortable with. So maybe we see a new Will Levitz that is not only being coached, but he's allowing to have some input in where he feels confidence.
Other side of the ball, we talked a lot about Jeffrey Simmons and Devondre Sweat. So, I mean, you do have to begin there on that defense. What kind of assignment is this for the interior three of the Bears offensive line?
Well, what type of plays you want to run? The thing about it is you can try to make Devondre Sweat as tired as quickly as you possibly can. So that's exterior outside running plays. That's screens that we've seen all preseason. That's trying to have some unsuspecting angle blocks on him that he doesn't know how to defend with immediacy. Jeffrey Simmons, you're going to have to block him from the start of the play to the end of the play, no matter if it's inside or outside. The plan of attack that Chris Morgan will put together for the run game attack, you know, you're going to have some alternative ways to block 6'4", 366 pounds and Sweat, but Jeffrey Simmons, he's a great defensive tackle. So it's about sustained blocks against Simmons. It's a little different than a rookie Sweat.
Yeah, Simmons had some injuries last year they played through, and maybe didn't have his best year, but boy, he's poised to have a really good year this year, that's for sure. He's ready to roll.
When you talk about a player like Simmons and he's still willing to play at less than 100%, that tells you a little bit how important his career in the game is to him. And so when you put him on the field and he's 100% healthy and Aaron Donald is no longer in the game, you're talking about a player that could be one of the best defensive tackles in football.
Interesting. I know you listened to the interview with DJ, but, you know, you and he are on the same page about running back DeAndre Swift.
I think he's the key to the operation on the offense. You know, you saw that clever, what would you call the pass, the hook shot?
Yeah, a little hook shot.
Yeah, the hook shot
Buffalo
spiral. That it's not a taught pass. It's not something you sit out there and practice, but DeAndre Swift is that outlet, and you see what he can do with the ball in his hand. So I do think he's the key to the operation of anybody that's from the line of scrimmage 4 yards back, to allow those guys that are at the line of scrimmage moving forward. I think DeAndre Swift is the key to the operation.
Good news, Chicago. United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles, like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. Before we go, just need some thoughts from you as you enter into your 28th season as the color analyst on radio for the Bears. Nearly 40 years with this organization as it begins its 105th NFL season. You've been a large chunk of that in some form or fashion. How does this resonate with you as you go back home to Soldier Field on Sunday?
I don't know if on Sundays when you were a kid you ever watched the Lawrence Welk show.
My grandmother made me do it.
Okay. They always had that commercial for Geritol.
Yes.
About how making you be younger and feel younger and have more energy.
Yeah.
Well, Caleb Williams is my Geritol. And so are a lot of the other guys from this football team. I've been more excited to watch the practice and the performance of training camp this year than I've been in a long time. So that boost of energy, that boost of excitement, that boost of fandemonium around Chicago and everywhere we go, from gas stations to grocery stores, it's excited to see. So I'm super excited about it. I can't wait to wake up Sunday morning, 5 o'clock, get to the stadium, start drinking coffee, get nervous, get excited, and ready to roll.
Well, we'll be looking forward to it. Tommy, thank you. For Tom, I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening, everyone. Please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Enjoy week one. We'll talk to you on the radio on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. Bear down.